Today on the Learn Dream Do show, we're going to be learning about bicycles, so grab your helmet and let's get rolling.
Bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. I want to ride my bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. I want to ride my bicycle. I want to ride my bike. I want to ride my bicycle. I want to ride it where I like.
Growing up, I had a hard time learning how to ride a bike.
La 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 la. Ow. I had a neighbor who was so good at riding his bike, he made laps around the neighborhood while I picked flowers and watched from afar. One day, my neighbor gave me the courage to ride a bike with something as simple as this, a coin. He said that if you can spin a coin, you can ride a bike. He explained that when the coin gets close to falling, you can give it another flick, and that flick will keep the coin spinning. You can't flick a bike's wheels, but instead, we pedal with our feet. When we feel like falling, just keep pedaling and you will not fall. Don't let others fool you. Learning to ride a bike is not easy. It is normal to fall and make mistakes. It's easy to lose balance and fall off a bike because the primary external forces on the bike are gravity, the thing that keeps you on the ground, friction, the resistance that one surface or object encounters when moving over another, rolling resistance, and air resistance. All those forces are pushing against you when you pedal your bike. Here's a fun challenge. Can you imagine riding your bike in a world without friction? Would your bike even still work?
Bicycles are awesome, but where did they come from? Who invented them? Let's find out! The first two-wheeled bike-looking invention is credited to Baron Carl von Drais in 1817. He created it as a solution for the severe livestock shortage caused by famine at the time. The lack of livestock like donkeys, oxen, mules, and horses was a big problem because animal-powered transportation was how most people got around during that time. The Baron's invention was an answer to this, and his two-wheeled, no-pedals version of the bike had many names. It was called a dandy horse, hobby horse, Draisienne, or Laufmaschine, which is German for running machine, and it didn't have any pedals to help you go forward. The invention of pedals with the gears and chain system came a little later. It was pretty expensive for people at the time, so it wasn't very widespread at first. This early type of bike also used wooden wheels like you see on a wagon instead of inflatable or pneumatic tires, so it wasn't comfortable to ride. Rubber inflatable tires wouldn't be invented until 1888. From the hobby horse, a few new types of bicycles were invented. The velocipede, which is French for fast feet roughly, came along in 1863. This model was also called the bone shaker. It did have pedals and cranks on the front wheel, but it was made of wrought iron and was really heavy. The nickname bone shaker was a pretty good description of how it felt to ride. It was invented by Pierre and Ernest Michaud and was manufactured in Paris in the 1860s. Because it was heavy, uncomfortable, and expensive, it didn't last very long in the market, but it was an important starting point. The next kind of bike to come along in the 1870s was called the ordinary bicycle, or penny farthing. And this is the kind with the enormous front wheel and tiny back wheel. Now we think it's pretty silly looking, but this version was easier to steer than previous versions, and you could go really fast. The name penny farthing is a joke based on old British coins. A penny for them was huge, and a farthing was really small, so people thought the front wheel looked like a penny leading the tiny back wheel farthing. This type was popular in the 1870s through the 1880s. It was dangerous, but you went pretty fast. The limit for tire size was how long your legs were, and getting down or stopping was a problem. Rich young men used to race them, and they were made mostly in France and England. In the 1890s, a new type of bicycle came onto the scene called the safety bicycle. And this one looks pretty familiar. This is when we get to see versions that really start to look like the bike that we know. Once they could be manufactured more cheaply and ridden in a safer way, bicycles got so popular that they started to change women's fashions at the time. You couldn't ride a bike in giant skirts with a bustle, so they invented a new kind of clothing called bloomers. Now these look pretty silly, but it represents a huge change in how women were allowed to dress and get around. The bicycle didn't require anything besides you to power it, and that helped people be more independent since they didn't need carriages or horses to go somewhere. In the 1890s, bicycles were an incredible transformative technology. They weren't just for the rich upper class, they were for everybody. Everyone who could learn to ride was doing so, from kings to villagers. Right around this time, bikes were starting to be produced from steel tubing instead of wood or iron, and the steel tubing was much lighter and more durable. The mass manufacture of bikes was a huge advancement because it meant that for the first time, transportation was affordable for nearly everyone. People didn't stop innovating once the regular bicycle had been created. Now there are bikes powered by your hands, bikes that lean way back for people with spine injuries or low movement, bikes that have voice command gear changes, wheelchair bicycles, and more. Speaking of innovation, did you know the Wright brothers owned a bicycle shop before they invented the airplane? Yeah, they learned a lot from bicycles and even used parts and concepts to create the very first airplane. Cars wouldn't be invented for another decade or so, and the first cars used some of the same parts. This invention changed the world, and there are about 1 billion bicycles on Earth today. Many people in Northern Europe, like in the Netherlands and Denmark, in large parts of Asia, and in many countries in Africa, all use bicycles in their daily lives to commute to work or get groceries, take their children to school, or to other places they need to go. Where will a bicycle take you?
It's bicycle riding time. Let's discuss how your ABCs, safety gear and clothing, and honoring the rules of the road can help you stay safe on your bicycle. The first thing every rider should do before jumping on their bike is check for their ABCs, or air, brakes, and chain.
Check the air in your tires by squeezing each tire to make sure they're not flat. Next, check your brakes to make sure they're working. They should be a little hard to squeeze. You can also move your bike pedal backwards to see if your bike stops. Last, check your chain to make sure it's not falling off or rusting.
The next thing you can do to keep yourself safe while riding your bicycle is to wear bright colored clothing so that other drivers can see you, wear closed-toe shoes to keep your toes and feet from getting scraped and bruised, and always wear a bicycle helmet. Helmets keep your brain safe when you fall off your bike. Now let's get riding and talk about the rules of the road. Even though you're driving a bike and not a car, you should always pay attention and honor traffic signs like this one. This sign means to stop.
Cars have blinkers to show other drivers which way they plan to go next, and bike riders, well, we use our arms and hands. Extend your left arm when you plan to turn left, and hold up your right arm in an angle to tell other bike drivers you're turning right. When it's time to cross the street, exit your bike and push your bike across the street.
Now we all love listening to the radio in the car, but that isn't safe when you're driving your bike. So make sure that you're paying attention and can see and hear everything, and leave your earphones at home. Now that you know how to be safe while riding your bicycle, get your caregiver's permission to get out and explore.
It's time for Shakespeare Says.
Come, wilt thou see me ride?
This has been Shakespeare Says.
B is for bikes that I like to ride. I is for inner tube tires. K is for kids who ride their bikes with pride. E is for everyone. When did you last ride a bike? The city of Fort Worth has some beautiful bike trails to explore.
A regular bicycle has 2 tires and 1 rider. A tandem bicycle has 2 tires and 2 or more riders. The longest tandem bicycle has 35 riders. That's a long bicycle.
We've been having a lot of fun learning about bicycles today. Now let's take a look at some of the strangest bicycles out there. Looking back in history, you might see this bike show up in old photographs. The penny farthing was the first machine to be called a bicycle. I'm not sure I could ride this one though. That first step looks like a doozy. Check out this bike created by Richie Trimble and called the Stupid Taller. It measures in at 20 feet, 2.5 inches tall, and currently holds the Guinness Book of World Records for the tallest bike in the world. I bet the views while riding this bike are awesome. If you can't make up your mind if you want to run on a treadmill or go for a bike ride, why not do both at the same time? Check out this bike that you power by running instead of pedaling. Does it count as twice the exercise as well? Have you learned how to ride a bike yet? How long do you think it would take you to unlearn how to ride a bike? With the backwards brain bicycle, you have to turn the handlebars in the opposite direction from the way that you want to steer. So if I wanted to make a left turn, I would have to turn the handlebars to the right. Destin, who created this bike, practiced every day for 8 months. Riding a normal bike is hard enough for me. I think I'll stay off of that one. This next bike is technically a bike because it has 2 wheels, but only one of them is touching the ground. It's called the Unowheel, and if riders weren't careful, they would end up spinning around and around the inside wheel when applying the brake. Okay, I need your help settling this debate. Technically, this isn't a bicycle because it has 3 wheels, but only one of them is touching the ground. So is this a tricycle or unicycle?
Bicycle riders from all over the world compete in cycling races and tournaments, but the most prestigious and most difficult is the Tour de France. Can you guess where it's held? France! It started over 100 years ago. Only one rider wins, but you work with your team to ride behind each other to protect from the wind, or even to give the leader a wheel if their bike gets a flat tire. The entire race covers 2,200 miles. That's really far. The distance from New York to Los Angeles is just under 2,800 miles. No wonder it takes them 21 days to finish the race. When you ride a bicycle for a long time, like one of those races we were just talking about, your body is in the same position, doing the same motions over and over and over. Usually that means you're hunched over the handlebars, and that will make your muscles really tight and sore. But stretching can help. Stretching helps protect you from injuries, it keeps your muscles loose and strong, and it helps with your posture. Here are some stretches that cyclists might use to support some of the major areas that get stressed after cycling. I'll hold each stretch for 20 to 30 seconds to the point of tension or tightness but not pain, and I'm going to speed mine up, but if you do them, go slow. For stretch number 1, kneel in front of a chair or a bench. Make prayer hands and then drop your chest toward the floor, keeping your back as flat as possible. This is pretty much the opposite of hunching over handlebars. Do this first because it's important to stretch your spine before the rest of your body. For the next stretch, sit up tall and tilt your head so that your ear moves toward your shoulder. Hold it and breathe deeply, and then repeat on the opposite side. This will stretch along your neck. The next stretch is a yoga pose. It's the upward dog. Lay on your belly, palms flat by your ribs, and press to straighten your arms. This will lift your torso, hips, and the tops of your thighs off the ground. Hold for a few breaths and then lower back down. Next, sit on a chair, cross your legs so your ankle is on top of the opposite knee. Keep your back as straight as possible and bend forward at your hips so your shoulders fall toward the shin on top. Then repeat on the opposite side. A lot of people keep their toes pointed like a Barbie foot when they push on the pedals. This will lead to tight calves. For this stretch, stand with one foot in front, bend your front leg and keep your back leg straight to stretch your calf. Then slide your back foot forward and pretend that you're sitting on a tall chair to stretch the rest of your calf.
After you do this a couple of times, repeat it on the opposite side.
Why couldn't the bicycle stand on its own? Because it was too tired.
And now a poem. Going Downhill on a Bicycle by Henry Charles Beeching, a boy's song. With lifted feet, hands still, I am poised, and down the hill dart with heedful mind. The air goes by in a wind, swifter and yet more swift, till the heart with a mighty lift makes the lungs laugh, the throat cry. Oh bird, see, see, bird, I fly! Is this your joy, O bird? Then I, though a boy, for a golden moment share your feathery life in air. Say, heart, is there aught like this in a world that is full of bliss? 'Tis more than skating, bound, steel-shod to the level ground. Speed slackens now, I float a while in my airy boat, till when the wheels scarce crawl, my feet to the treadles fall. Alas, that the longest hill must end in a vale, but still, who climbs with toil wheresoe'er shall find wings waiting there. Did you notice that the poet compares riding a bicycle down a hill to flying like a bird? I have definitely felt that magic. Try writing a poem about what riding a bike is like for you.
Extreme BMX, Extreme BMX, Extreme BMX.
Some extreme BMX bike tricks. Now let's learn 3 maneuvers that you can try. You definitely might fall when you try these, so be sure to wear your helmet, elbow pads, and knee pads. Let's start with number 3, the endo. Find a safe place to ride and pedal slowly. Pull your bottom off the seat, pull your front brakes, and lean back with your knees bent. Number 2, a wheelie. The trick here is to push and pull. Push your feet down when pedaling and pull the handlebars up at the same time. And finally, try a bunny hop. Begin riding slowly, then pick up your bottom and your handlebars at the same time. Now you're on your way to becoming an extreme BMXer.
Do you want to build up your bicycling skills? Try designing your own obstacle course in the driveway, cul-de-sac, or parking lot. It needs to be a place where cars aren't driving through regularly and where you have a clear line of sight for any cars that are moving. If you have cones, you can use those, but if you don't, try using objects from around your home, like boxes, Tupperware, water bottles, and other stuff that's okay to go outside. You may have to adjust it as you go. You can also use chalk to draw tracks. I didn't have chalk, so I used a rope to make a path, and I used that path for balance practice. If you're already a pro cycler, try increasing your speed and making your turns tighter. Or try slow racing. Go as slow as you can along a path without touching the ground. You could even try a penny drop, placing cups along your route and dropping pennies in as you go. I only got 1 penny in. Guess that's something I'll need to practice. If you don't have a bike, you can make an obstacle course or a balance path and walk or run it. You can work on the same skills: speed, agility, and balance. Have fun, and make sure to follow the safety tips that Tanji shared.
We need to put the brakes on this episode of the Learn, Dream, Do show, but before we go, you can keep the fun rolling by checking out these resources. Don't forget we have great bicycle titles at your local branch. Check these out using either in-person or curbside pickup. Duck on a Bike by David Shannon. This classic picture book is about a duck that decides to ride a bike and soon influences all the other animals on the farm to ride bikes as well. The Last Day of Summer by Lamar Giles. 2 cousins bike around town on the last day of summer, which may not end if they don't fix the time continuum they have broken. Ghost Squad by Claribel Ortega. Ghosts are the family business when you live in a haunted town. Dog on a Bike, and More True Stories. This nonfiction book is about the amazing things that animals can do, include riding a bike. Fort Worth has a lot of bike trails for you to discover. Check out the Trinity Trails interactive map by visiting the URL listed on your screen to learn more. If you don't own a bike, the City of Fort Worth has you covered with its bike sharing program. To find a bike station near you, visit www.fortworthbikesharing.com. If you're ready to show off some of the tricks you can do on your bike, head over to the Chisholm Trail Park. They have a skate park you can use. Learn more about bike safety for kids, including learning about the hand signals, by visiting www.safekids.org/bike. You can also visit biketexas.org for free downloadable Safe Cyclist curriculum. REI offers expert advice on their website if you want to teach a kid how to ride a bike. Visit the website address listed on your screen to learn more. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.